Well, I'm not too big of a fan of the default Synty character faces, and since you clicked on this video, I suppose you aren't either. But luckily, they are surprisingly easy to change and customize. Let's see how. Hi and welcome. This tutorial will show you how to customize the faceplate of a classic Synty character, switching up mouths, noses and eyes. The first two can be done for the most part in any 2D art application. For the third, we will have to dip into Blender for a moment. You don't need to have great Blender skills, so even if you are new, I hope you'll be able to follow along. We'll start with the basic adult humans. Head over to the Synty store and find the faceplates download. It's a free one and you'll find the link in the pinned comment. Yes, it says it requires the child pack to be functional, but that's only for the textures, and those we are going to create ourselves anyway. We are only here for the meshes. Unzip it and import the two FBX files into Unity. Open the prefab of any character you want to customize and find the head object in the hierarchy. It is right under the neck object. Kinda makes sense, I guess. Take the faceplate that fits the character and drop it onto the head object to turn it into a new child. It might pop up at the feet of the character, but by zeroing out its position, it'll smoothly sit on the face and look like one of those tissue masks in wellness salons. That is because the downloadable pack has no textures to work with, so now we will have to become creative ourselves. Here's where it gets a bit more, let's call it sudden parkour. Mouths and noses are simple and 2D. Eyes need just a small extra step in Blender, so I'll start with the mouth and noses here. Face the character in a close-up and make sure you don't have any perspective active. That means you'll just have to click on these cone-shaped indicators until you are facing the front and make sure to zoom in. Take a screenshot of that so you'll have a reference of where elements will end up at. Open up your art application of choice and create a new 512 by 512 image. I'll be using Photoshop here, but you can use any other art program you're familiar enough with. Remove the background, then paste in your face close-up. No need to tinker with it any further at this stage, that will come in a moment. Just make sure it fits your canvas. Next, you'll either need Blender, and don't worry, you don't need any Blender skills for this, or download the file I pinned in the first comment. If you go the Blender route, create a new project and feel free to remove the good old default cube. Import one of the two faceplates. They really are essentially the same for this step. By dragging and dropping them into the Blender scene and click OK on the import dialog. Select the elements by clicking on it, then head straight over to the UV tab. Here on the left you can see how the texture of the faceplate should be laid out. Square with a bit of space all around and the 4 panels of the face. Take a screenshot of this as well. And if you're on Windows, just press Windows key Shift and S to call for the snipping menu. Then make as good of a square selection of this window as you can manage. Doesn't have to be perfect. That's already all we needed in Blender at this stage. Head back over to your 2D application and into the same image you started with, paste this new snipping. Position it so that it matches the position as you have seen it in Blender. If you manage to get a very square screenshot, that will make your life easier. Reduce its opacity. It is also helpful to lock the layer. Now select your face screenshot and align it roughly within the top and bottom points of this shape. Reduce this layer's opacity as well and lock it. I use it to keep in mind where the eyes of the characters are located. You now have a basic lay of the land, face of the character. From here you can draw whichever expression or face parts you need. I'll start with the basic nose, since that's always helpful. The nose is going to sit roughly above the central point here. Set all other layers to transparent, then export your graphic as a PNG file. Next is the mouth. I hide the nose, display the other layers again, then draw, or in this case, copy a mouth from a facial expression sheet into this file, and position it roughly where the mouth of the character is located. Don't try to be perfect in the first go. The first tries typically are a learning situation of how wide, tall, or detailed your mouth can turn out to be to sit nicely on a character's face. Hide the helper layers and export the mouth. I'll repeat these steps for the mouth 2 or 3 more times to have something to experiment with in a moment. Don't go into full production just yet. Head back over to Unity and import your custom faceplate textures. I didn't make any changes to them, but just in case, these are my import settings. Right-click on any of them and create a new material. I'll call mine Open Smile. Drag the corresponding texture to the base map square. Then click on the faceplate in the hierarchy and switch out its material to this newly created one. And we are faced with a few tiny issues. Those are all material-related and easy enough to solve. Instead of a metallic opaque texture, we need a specular transparent one. This looks better already, but the colors look strangely washed out. That's the smoothness value at work, so by reducing that to 0, you get the colors you expected to see. The mouth looks quite a bit too large, but let's see how it will work once the nose is in. Duplicate the faceplate, rename it to nose, then duplicate the new material you just created a moment ago, rename that as well, and hook up the nose texture to it. Then switch out the material of the nose faceplate. Yep, as expected, the nose sits well, while the mouth is a bit too large. If that happened to you as well, switch back to your art application and make any needed changes. The first time I did this, it took about 5 or 6 tries to get the position and size of the mouth just right. If you save your PNG file directly to the folder it is stored in Unity, the material will update every new iteration you go through, which has made this process quite a bit faster for me. Once you are happy with your results, position some guidelines to keep the size in mind, or just keep your mouth as yet another halfway transparent locked layer like the other two. So, that's noses and mouths done. And if you enjoyed it this far, please give this video a like and consider subscribing. I'm typically focusing on UI tutorials, but sometimes more general tutorials sneak in as well. For the eyes, we have to go one step further and remove them from the model itself inside of Blender. You don't need great Blender skills for this. However, due to a stupid and not really a bug but sure feels like one at the end of this workflow, I really only recommend doing this for a new project or if you have time on your hand to replace all characters in your game. First, you'll need the FBX files for the characters to do so. Go to the prefab of your character and click up here. That'll bring you to the model folder. Right-click, show in Explorer, and copy the path from the address bar. Switch to Blender, and just out of habit, I'll start with a new project for this. Then go to File, Import, and paste the folder in. Finding the model might take a moment based on its name, but luckily they are at the top of the list in this pack. This loads all characters into your scene, male and female, as well as several attachments. I do not care about any missing textures or poses or whatever. Head to the hierarchy and start hiding all but one character element. The bones can stay. We are in luck. The eyes are just black boxes that are easy enough to remove. Select the model, then press Tab to switch into edit mode. Then press the number 3 on your keyboard to work with faces. Click on one of the faces of an eye, and it will be slightly orange when you did it correctly. Hold Ctrl, then press the plus key a few times. This enlarges your selection. Do it often enough that you can see the whole eye being colored in orange. Then just 1 or 2 more times to be sure you got everything on the back as well. This is not a precision procedure, really. Once everything is selected, press Delete to remove the eye. Repeat the step for the other eye, then hide your character and repeat this step with every other model you find in the hierarchy that has eyes. And since I'm already here, I'll also remove the eyebrows, because those are way too strong for my liking. You can make a whole lot of changes to your character in Blender. Synty has a tutorial on their channel going over customizing them, which is worth a watch after you're done here. For example, you probably noticed the lips of the character still being there behind the textures of the faces. To remove those and get a single colored surface, you'll have to import the texture and make a small change to the UV wrapping. Switch to the Shading tab at the top, then go to this section box down here and click on the folder icon to open the texture you want to work with. Paste in the folder structure you probably still have in your clipboard, then go up 1 or 2 levels to find the textures for your pack. Pick any of them. In case there is an emissive texture too, do the same and link up the first one you find in the folder. That will get rid of the purple. The lighting in Blender looks a bit different to Unity's, but you should easily be able to see where the off-colored areas are you want to remove. Now switch over to the UV Editing tab. If it is black, it still displays the emissive texture. Click up here to get a drop-down of the textures in your project, then pick the colorful one. Select your model and click Tab again, just like you did when you selected the eyes before. This time, select the faces that make up the mouth of your character. It is easy to miss, but on the left side of the screen, a dot has appeared. This dot marks which part of the texture is applied to these faces, and yes, I'm simplifying it a bit here, but it's good enough to understand what we need to do, I hope. Zoom in, then click on one of the surrounding areas and note where the dot will jump to. That is the color you will want to use for the lips of your character as well. Select the lips once more, then draw a box over the dot on the left, press G, and freestyle move it into the correct color block. As long as it is somewhere in the block, it's good enough. This way you can change the coloration of all other parts as well, by the way. Alright, back to the plucking out the eyes step, since we are now done here. Re-enable all parts and get rid of the light and camera of the Blender scene. Then go to File, Export, FBX, and paste the folder you should still have in your clipboard to export the model straight back into your Unity project. Back in Unity, select your project window and make a few changes to it. First, set it to being humanoid here. Then, in the materials, switch it over to none. This will now make it look like all the other models in the preview as well. So this is where it gets a little bit tedious, because these characters are set up in a way that makes use of skin mesh renderers. We can't just switch out the mesh of the character to, well, update it. It just won't show up. I banged my head against this for a while, and I finally found a good explanation for why that is and how to fix it at runtime over in one of CodeMonkey's tutorials, and I recommend you go and watch that if you're not happy with the solution I present to you. His solution works, but will keep elements invisible in your scene while you are not in play mode, which is alright if it's about a helmet or a sword you want to switch out, but doesn't really help when it's the whole character you need to switch. Which is why I propose to actually just do exactly that. Switch the characters. Wait, don't click away just yet. This is less work intense than you might think. It starts by recreating the basic characters as they are set up by Synty. Drag the newly imported characters into your scene, then disable all but one entry of the character's children. You might have to add some hair. Reference the texture you want to use, and you are back at having a character to work with. Turn it into a prefab. From here, we'll once again set up the faceplates just like we did before, just this time for one more, the eyes. Once you are done, go to the characters you now need to replace with their much less soul-staring eyes, and with Ctrl pressed, drag the prefab of your new character to the original character. You'll get prompted how to replace it, and since you most likely already set up things like some animations, you can pick Replace and Keep Overrides. That should keep all the changes you made intact. Hope you enjoyed this one, and again, giving it a like and maybe commenting would be awesome. Have a great week!